Well, if your life is feeling like a wilderness journey, this book can help you turn it into a spiritual adventure. Grace Points, Growth and Guidance in Times of Change is one of 11 books written by award-winning author Jane Rubietta. She's a wife and mother of 3 from the Chicago area. She writes for lots of people. Focus on the family. You might have read her in Today's Christian Woman. We're just thankful that she's made time to bring some grace into our life today, wherever you may be. Jane, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
We so enjoyed having you with us on the Full Circle couch. And I remember at the end, one of the women said that you exuded the loveliness that you promised as we spend time with the Lord. And the word in my mind was grace. You were just so gracious. And you're going to take us on a journey, just a mini version of what your book provides. It's kind of a roadmap that you've given us.
It is, and I hope it is, and it tracks with the Israelites as they left Egypt and journeyed through that 40-year wilderness and then into the Promised Land. And they became my role models in a really hard time, and then Grace Points came out of that. And I'm grateful for that kind of a record that we have in the Scriptures that can really help us navigate the wildernesses that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, why am I not surprised? You know, most good things are born of frustration, right?
It's true.
Something's wrong and something has to be changed because of it.
Yeah.
So
mostly us. It's usually us that has to be changed.
So this is the fruit of your own struggle.
It is. Yes, right. I thought I knew a whole lot about transition because we moved 17 times in 11 years or something insane. But in 1999, the Lord called us into this whole new place of ministry, left the local church, and in the process we lost our, housing allowance and our pension and our health insurance and our life insurance and the car we were driving and our salary. Yes.
What does your husband do?
He's a pastor. But then we moved into this full-time freelance missionary nonprofit sort of existence.
Free fall.
And it was like a free fall. I'm great in a crisis for about 30 seconds, and then I'm like scared to death. And I think I went for 2 years without sleeping, and I lost 15 pounds, and it was terrible. And throughout the whole time, God is just waiting for me to realize that He's there to hold me up. He's the one getting us through. It's not my fear.
Now, one of the things you encouraged us with the last time, and actually you've got 2 books on the subject as well, Quiet Places, Still Waters. These are all coming out of that life lesson of having to start with being still.
Being still, I know.
We want to scramble and run and panic and go find something to do and figure out what that job is that's going to bring in the income, and it's the opposite.
It's really, we think we should be able to fix things. We should be, and that's what's so awful and so wonderful about being in these places of unprecedented change, like in our economy, in our nation, across the continent. It's just sweeping change, and most of it is not very good. But the gift of it is that we realize that we really can't fix it.
Still point.
Yeah.
That's, if we're looking at this as it's almost a travelogue. The first stop is Still Point.
Yes. Yes, isn't there a scripture where the Israelites are panicking about a war that's coming, and God says, I want you to stand still and see the power of God. So I open every chapter with a still point, a place for us to just stop in the middle of all our chaos and be quiet there and kind of begin to refocus.
Then travelogue. It's not like we're parked forever. What's travelogue?
The travelogue are questions. You know what? I just don't have any patience with Christianity that isn't practical. Just learning more doesn't work for me. It just doesn't change my life. And so the travelogue is this place of process where we are processing our journey. I ask a question every other page or so, and there's a spot for you to just stop and think and to get in touch with your heart again, and then see what God is maybe saying to you in that place.
And that comes right out of the journey of the Israelites through that wilderness too, because God says, remember all the ways thy God hath led thee in the King James.
Yeah, He says 264 times in the Scriptures, remember. And that doesn't count all the times He says, don't forget. He even says, remember to not forget.
And don't you find the importance of that is that when we come to the really dry and desperate places, we're reminded, hey, God got me through this last time.
Right.
My last crunch, God showed up.
Yes.
And I survived it. I better than survived it.
Absolutely. And that's why we have to stop and take stock. The travelogue, it's good.
Now this is, no, I can't jump ahead. You know where I want to get to, don't you?
Okay.
We have a wilderness response. That's a psalm, isn't it? Is that the psalm?
It is. That's a psalm where it's typically one of the Israelites, and it's written, based on their journey from the wilderness, through the wilderness, and it's a place where they responded to God in the desert. And
so that takes us into the scriptures.
Into the scriptures, and when we can move into the scriptures and bring our own experience into that place, that's where God begins to just sort of cover over us, I think. That's when scripture becomes real.
Favorite part, I think, I learned recently, for the early Christians, the Psalms were the favorite. I mean, it's so emotive.
Yes.
It's not all David's Psalms, but the writers are very expressive about what they're really feeling, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's great.
And then a guiding song, which usually, in your book, is a classic hymn.
It is. Yes, I love those hymns.
Can we have a few cheers out there? I mean, a lot of people have turfed the hymn book. You and I would eagerly campaign to bring them back.